Mm-hmm. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Usual, where we go beyond your normal. I'm Paulizé Anthony. This is Keleisha Lashaye, and we're back with another fire episode. And you know what? I'm truly excited about this episode too. I feel like we got a lot of good topics to talk about. I mean, honestly, every week we always got dope topics to talk about, right? But I feel like this one right here, I feel like this one is a real game changer because this is, it's almost like a seasonal type of conversation that we're going to have, right? We're going to get into a lot of deep topics. We're going to be talking about rinse, washing, and repeat. We're going to be talking about the energy and the shifting of it. We're going to be talking about a lot of good topics today. And I'm excited. I'm excited. How you feeling today, Keleisha?
Yes, I am definitely excited for this conversation. As I was like taking down my notes and everything, like it was really inspiring as I was like writing down notes and researching some things. Like I think this is definitely information that needs to be put out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Hearing feedback from people that listen to this episode, because yes, it is definitely a game changer. So let's get into it.
For sure. So we're gonna be, how can we start this off? Let's start off with decisions, right? Because I feel like that's the best place to start anywhere, right? To start with a decision. It doesn't matter too much about the decision because you already know what decisions lie in front of you, right? The only issue is we just don't know which one to choose because we're weighing all of the possible outcomes on every single situation that we're presented with, right? But I think it's important to just make the decision and allow the path to unfold for you. And this kind of puts me in the rhythm of patterns, right? This puts me in the rhythm of patterns because every decision has a repetitious pattern to it. If you notice, every single time you make a decision, there's always, okay, I have to do this, this, and this, right? And those steps that you have to take creates patterns within your life based on the decision that you make. So everything that you do is a pattern that you can see in your daily routine, like waking up early. Like, for instance, you're going live now more, and you're waking up earlier than what you're normally used to. And there was one time maybe you were doing that, right? Where you were waking up early and it was just a normal thing for you. But now you're getting back into that rhythm. Now you're getting back into that pattern, and it's all stemming from a decision that you made because you understand that if you make that decision, then there's going to be a greater outcome for you, meaning that you're going to see yourself become a greater version of yourself based on the decision that you make, based on the patterns that you are currently in, right? So I truly believe that every decision that you make has a pattern to it. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that process and maybe what that looks like for you from your vantage point, like decision making and pattern orientation.
Decision making, I feel like, is, I mean, it's so important to discuss and to be aware of within ourselves, because I used to battle with being very indecisive. And a lot of that was more so me giving my power away because I would ask everyone else what their opinion was or what I should do, or like everyone else was the expert for me, you know? I think what leads a lot of people to indecision is judgment. And I think a game changer, at least things that I've seen within my coaching program, and even just sharing it with like people in general, is having the understanding that it's not, that indecisiveness itself, I think we make problems out of things that don't have to be problems. Because a lot of people don't decide to do something because, like you said, they're worried about like not making the wrong decision, or maybe the judgment that comes from it. But why is it a problem?
Mm.
Even if the outcome isn't what we desire, like we learned, this is not the way to go. Like this, I want to make a different decision in the future. So it's like, why do we put so much weight on making a decision that is going to lead us either to a win or growth? And if it's growth, like that's a win, right? So like, why do we place so much weight on just deciding to do something? Because in that indecision, that is a decision in itself.
Mm.
And I think a lot of it, again, just comes from like the judgment of like, what's going to happen if this doesn't turn out like the way I want it to? If it doesn't turn out perfectly, but like, maybe that's not the journey, you know? Like, maybe the journey is for you to know exactly. Sometimes it's better for us to know what we don't want before we can decide what we do.
Nah, facts.
So I think just shifting our mindset about the decision, and the beliefs that we have that are underlying, that's really where our decisions lie. Like that's where the behaviors lie, which leads to the pattern. But the thing about a pattern is, even if, let's say, like, oh, I always choose the wrong person in relationships, you can break that pattern. Like literally today, you can decide differently moving forward, you know?
For sure. Yeah. That, that thing, that makes me think, right? When it comes to decisions, I think the lack of decision-making, it stems from a lack of trust in self, right? Because we've seen the results of the decisions that we make. Our brain sees the results of the decisions that we make, and therefore it creates a sense of distrust because you think that your brain thinks that, oh, the last time you made a decision, the outcome wasn't pretty. So now you question every single decision that you make because you want to make sure that you're making the right decision, you're making the sound decisions. So that way you can get the best possible outcome. But in doing so, you can create stagnation in the pattern of decision making because now you're faced with not only a decision, but now you're faced with that doubt, that fear, that regret. And all of those things are standing in the roads of each decision that you're making because you don't want to have those things down either of these roads, right? But let's be honest, anytime you do make a decision, there's always a level of unpredictability. Like you don't really truly know what the results are going to be until you make that decision. And one thing that I've learned, because I was like that for, a long time, and sometimes it still does happen, but I make decisions and I stick with the decision that I made. Because for me, it's about building trust with myself, right? It's about building the trust that I can make a decision, I can stand on that decision, and I can stand on the results of the decision that I made because I know that it's always going to be in my favor because I look for it to be in my favor. So when I make a decision on something, I move with a courageous spirit, right? I move with a spirit of understanding that this outcome is going to teach me something that I didn't know once before. And so I think that once you start to get into that mode, you create new patterns, right? You create a new pattern of trust with yourself because it's bigger than just the decision. It's the habits or it's the patterns that come behind that because now every single aspect of your life, you're going to see that same rhythmic pattern and that same decision-making process because you trust yourself. You don't even have to second guess anything. You don't even have to think about anything twice. You just know immediately, like boom, decision made, done. We are going here, we're doing that. Like with this that we're doing right here, this was a decision and we are currently in the pattern of the decision that we both agreed upon. So, and it's a lot of trust, right? It's trust in self because we trust in ourselves, right, as individuals to show up every single Sunday, right? Despite anything that goes on, because I'm a firm believer that anytime you embark on a new journey, and I've talked about this before, anytime you embark on a new journey, there's always going to be some resistance, right? There's always going to be some resistance in every single new decision that you make. And so things can go smooth, and then there's going to be some turbulence. But if you continue with the pattern of the direction that you're going in, the pattern is going to keep you on a trail, right? It's like I saw this video, and it was basically giving a demonstration of like a ball. One ball was going down a straight path, and this other one was kind of like just going down a up and down type of path, right? And basically the point of the video was you will get to your destination quicker with all the hills, the valleys, the ups and downs faster than you would if you just went down a straight linear path. Because all the things that you go through, all the ups, the downs, all the setbacks and comebacks, all of those things propel you forward. And they put you in a better position than you once was. So when making a decision, there's a bit of visualization in that, right? Because we want the decision that we make to appear as we see it in our minds. And it may not look like that all the time, but we see ourselves differently once we made the decision because we show up differently now. We bring a different kind of energy into the room now, right? And so I think that's truly important. And what was the other topic that you had?
Well, but also just
Okay.
to add to that part too,
Mm-hmm.
the releasing of judgment. I think there's a fear sometimes in making the decision because we are our own worst critics. And a lot of times, if it doesn't turn out the way that would be satisfactory to us, we tend to like get down on ourselves and judge ourselves and shame ourselves and just be stuck in this like feedback loop of just negativity around the decision rather than just saying, you know what, okay, this is not the outcome that I desired. Let me shift now. Let me pivot, right? Like we just adjust fire and keep it pushing. And I feel like there's a lot of fear in that because we end up, the ego tends to want to find like confirmation bias. Oh, well, see, this is why we don't do this because, but all in the same time, we're creating that loop. So it's very important for us to release that because even if we make the decision and it doesn't turn out how we would desire, then we pivot. We make a different decision. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's very few things in life that are permanent. So
that is true. That is true.
But again, and that takes us into the energy never dies conversation. Because essentially all it does is mutate. It mutates, it never dies. And you know, with the law of conservation of energy, energy can't be created or destroyed, only manipulated, you know, transformed from one form to another. So I think with that makes me think about like, it's our responsibility to determine the type of energy we have. It's no one else's responsibility. It's not on, like, it's no one's fault that we're like vibrating on a certain, you know, frequency. It's no one else's responsibility but our own. But because everything is energy, like everything affects our energy. So even the lack of decision, like not making a decision, creating that stagnancy, that creates a stagnancy in our growth and our healing and not trusting in self. That makes us operate on a lower vibration, on a lower frequency. So we're going to only attract things that are of that vibration, you know? And again, that's the ego trying to protect, but essentially that's really just stunning our healing and growth.
Nah, for real. That's true.
Use my dogs.
He agrees.
Riley.
So yeah, I like that. I really like that. The fact that you said that energy never dies, and it creates this whole dynamic of fear, right? I was talking with somebody today, and it's funny, right? I feel like what we're talking about now kind of resonates, and it's like whenever you're making a decision, right, there's always going to be a level of fear behind it, right? And that's just a part of the energy that you embody because it's something that you've never done before. And the more you step into that energy, the more you start to recognize when there are new decisions available for you to take or new avenues for you to take, so to speak, right? But in regards to energy never dying, right? Energy can never be died, it can only be transferred. And I feel like it that to me speaks a lot about the past, the present, and the future, and how all of them are happening all at one time. So the energy that you felt when you were growing up in high school, right? That energy doesn't die. It just gets recycled and transferred into something different, right? As you continue to mature in your life and things of that nature. And even as you are now, right? You bring all of the experiences and the skills that you've developed from the walks of your life and you bring them here right now into the present moment. Like everything that we're talking about is literally a collective of not just energy, but information, just based on the experiences that we've had and the trials and tribulations that we had to face and overcome. So that energy, it stays with us. It stays with us, but we're alchemists. And what does alchemy mean? Alchemy means using everything that you have and making something great out of it. And that's what a true alchemist does. They can take anything, any experience, any energy, and they can transmutate it. They can turn it into something different, right? And so that's what happens, right? When you're going through this process of understanding energy and frequency and vibration and understanding yourself and how you learn, you go through this whole process of transmuting. And I feel like that is a constant thing that we're always going to do. We're always going to have energy that we need to utilize in some way, shape, or form. And if not, it stagnates and it reminds us of a time where maybe we weren't as great as we are now, right? So with the energy that you possess now, right? I'm sure this isn't who you always was, but how are you utilizing your energy? How do you like transmute the energy that you have and the energy that you gather throughout your day, your weeks, your months, your years?
So now I think I'm more intentional with it. So I go about like I realize, and I'll tell people, like I remember I sent a message to a friend and I was like, good morning. I pray that your day was activated in the highest vibration. And they was like, what? Like, but I realized how, how we start our day. If you wake up and you're snoozing your alarm and you got like 20 minutes to get dressed and you're just rushing in, like that affects the whole trajectory of your day. So I'm realizing to be more intentional with it. Like I am doing more check-ins with myself throughout the day. Like, how am I feeling right now? Do I need this? Like, even sometimes before I'm like, okay, I would love to just stay lost in binge watching this show, but I've been on screens all day. So maybe it's time to like, to back off for a second and recalibrate. I do more check-ins with myself, but even with when it comes to other people, I used to get so hot and bothered. I used to get so hot and bothered by people. I used to get so activated by people and how they responded to things, how they even said things, like even with friends and stuff. Like I would just let stuff like really eat me up. And now as an alchemist, I understand that all energy is energy, even if it's negative energy that somebody's throwing at you. Like, especially us being on social media and stuff now. There's even, there's negative comments or there's people that say stuff that are just off the wall, right? Like,
yeah,
even crazy. When it's like, but it's energy. So I don't have to be activated by you saying a comment that doesn't align with me. But what I can do, because you've shifted the energy towards me, I'm going to transmute it. And guess what? Energy is free. So like, I'm going to transmute it into something like it's going to be fuel for me and inspires me to, you know, maybe even go into coaching mode with something, or like it may help me to have a different perspective on something. I'm going to use that energy in some way, shape, or form to better myself or someone around me. And essentially, I think having that mindset is what really shifts things, because I think we allow other people. I mean, I think I mentioned this before, like I made a post about like ships not sinking from, you know, the stuff that's the water that's around it. It's what we let in. So like really understanding, we don't have to get so activated by people. People are going to be who they're going to be. And I'm a believer, like, I don't even have to meet you where you're at. You know what I mean? But I'll take that energy and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it to like level me up in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to just like stick with me in the way that you intended it to allow it to just bother me and eat me up and make me feel some type of way and make me doubt myself and make me like go back and forth with you. I'm not doing that. That's my energy, you know? So I think just being more intentional with how things affect me and just not engaging if it doesn't, like if it's not something that's going to get me too closer to being my higher self, like it's not for me, you know?
I feel that. But hey, sometimes you gotta pop out and show folks, you know, like sometimes you just gotta pop out and show folks. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, that's
I mean, say, you know, every once in a while, and listen, we are still healing, okay? Like
facts. Like listen, don't get it twisted now.
Anybody can get it. Don't get it twisted, but it's when it happens, it's gonna be intentional. So it's not gonna be like how it used to be, and we just like go off just because, oh well. No, it's gonna be real intentional, and some feelings is probably gonna get hurt. But we just try not to go there too often. We don't usually have to go there, but yeah. But it's there, like
just waiting. Just waiting, boy. It's like, ooh, give me a reason. I want you.
Oh, ain't boxed in a minute.
That's powerful. I feel like that speaks a lot to like the tolerance level as well. And that commands a lot of respect from you as well. Like I had an incident before where there was somebody and we worked together and he would speak in ways that I didn't like, right? And I let him know once. And then after letting him know once, I stopped responding, right? Because it's like, okay, I done told you once and now you're still doing it. Okay, but I stopped responding, you know, for a while. And it's like, don't talk to me. If you don't know how to talk to me, then don't talk to me at all. And so as time went on, maybe he got the hint. Maybe he finally realized like, oh, he wasn't playing. And now the conversation has changed, the demeanor has changed, right? But it's because of the energy that I embody. And everybody will always approach you at their highest frequency, because it's like your frequency can be up right here, right? And maybe some people can vibrate at whatever level that they can vibrate to, right? But no matter what, they're always going to meet you at your highest level, at their highest level, if that makes sense. So people will only treat you as well as you treat yourself. I feel like we talked about that before, right? But that's just energy. That's a part of the energy. Energy doesn't die, it gets transferred, right? So therefore, when it gets transferred, it grows. It grows into something greater. Like at first, it starts with like a light. You know what I'm saying? Like just a small light. Like yeah, it starts like you can't really see it, right? It starts off like a small little light. And then over time, as that light continues to get reused over and recycled over and over again, it gets a little bigger, right? And so now that light creates like a wave, a ripple effect, and everybody can feel the effects of that ripple, whether you want them to or not, right? Because everybody can see the work that you put in on the progression and on the process that you're going through because you wear it. Like the way that we're speaking right now, this is literally the way that I speak with myself and with others as well, because I want my growth to show, right? I want you to know how much I've grown. I want you to know the process that I've gone through, right? Because I want you to see that. I want you to see the evolution of every aspect of my life in one moment. Because what you see is Paul back in the day, and what you see is who I am now. And then what you see is me embodying the future aspect of who I am as well. So all of that just comes together and it creates this just beautiful, magnificent being. And it creates these circles, right? And you start to notice how your energy shifts, how it shifts the room, how it shifts the planet, how it shifts the dialect and what people are speaking of. Because I did this one time, right? It was kind of like a mini experiment because I just wanted to see. I was in like a group setting or something, and everybody was just talking about different things, right? And I wanted to see how powerful, like, just dropping the seed can be, right? So everybody was just talking about things. There wasn't really anything important that they was talking about. But I just said something. I forgot what I said, but it was just like kind of pertaining to the conversation that we're having right now. And it got people thinking. Like I immediately noticed the shift because now it's like they're thinking about it. They're like, I never thought about it that way. And then that started a whole dialogue. So that's that ripple effect, right? Where as opposed, and you know what that is? That's a decision. And I was confident in that decision because I could have just said, well, let me just join in on the conversation. You know, I don't know what they're talking about, right? Or let me just add my own input based on who I am and the conversations that I like to talk about, right? Let me just add my input, see what happens. And when that happened, it's just like, it was a beautiful moment. And I was like, wow, that was powerful. That ripple effect was powerful. So we got to really be intentional with the energy that we're putting out and how we're putting it out too. Because I think that's something that's really unspoken of. Like, how long did it take for you to really realize how powerful you were and realize the impact that you can create? And then what was your response to that? Like, oh shit, I can do this. Like, what was that like for you in that moment?
I mean, honestly, I've had a few, like, I still sometimes have moments, even recently, that it will make me kind of like, oh, wow, like, I am on a certain frequency. I don't know. It's like something that I don't think about, but then somebody will say something and make a comment. Like, I don't know if I talked about it before, but like I went on somebody's live and just being myself. It wasn't like talking about anything specific, but I like to ask questions that make people think and not just give like very quick automatic answers that we always give. And when I got off and went back in the room, he was commenting on how I just showed up and like shifted the whole room, like the energy in the room. And obviously like people in the comments and stuff too, but like it was one of those moments and I was like, wow, like, and this is me just being me. And it was like, I forget that you can tend to have that effect on people, that you have that effect because of your energy, because of the vibration, the frequency that you're on. A lot of things, like what we give our attention to, where we focus, that's where we're giving our energy to. And it's like, when you're vibrating on a certain level, I guess, it's certain things don't even get close to you. Like the problems that we had before are different problems than we have now, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I've frequently had those. I don't remember when, like off the top of my head, when that first moment was. Because I've always gotten comments on like how I show up, and like I tend to end up being like a center of attention, and it's like I'm very introverted. Like people are surprised when I say it because I'm like, I could be in the corner and be just fine.
Yeah, for real.
But it's always been difficult for me to go into spaces and not shine, even when I've been literally trying to do the opposite. So I don't know. It's been like I guess coming to like an understanding and just like realizing like that's just how it is. Like I just can't be mad at it, I guess. What about
yeah, I experienced that a lot. I experienced that a lot. And honestly, it's like I try to just be cool and just, kind of blend in, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't try to stand out, but it's like when you have a big energy, right? And it's just like people can sense it. It just creates a magnet. Like you just attract certain people, and it's just an energy. I don't know what it is, but people want to talk to you. They just want to talk to you because I've had instances where people would be like, "You look like you know a lot," and I'm just like, "I know what I know." I have this saying, right? I say, "I know what I know. I don't know. I know what I know. I know what I don't know, and I don't know what I don't know." Right? So I don't try to make it seem as though I know a lot. But again, the energy.
Yeah, it's not arrogance, but it's just in the aura. Like and that's the thing too, when you raise your vibration like that, people want to know how you got there, right? Like they want to know how can I be like this? Like, what do I need to do to show up like this? Because one thing I'll say, like, too, is like I get a lot of comments about usually my very calm and peaceful energy. Like I'm like, listen, the past few years I've been very intentional to be more so in my feminine and just like calm and peaceful, and like I don't get too activated about things. Even when I do, it's not like I don't react like I used to, and I think that plays a huge part in it. And when you get your vibration to a certain level, you're going to attract it's going to open doors for you. Like us, finding, connecting. It's like now we're planning this retreat, which y'all be on the lookout for the details about that. Like like it's allowing collaborations and connections and networks to like happen that wouldn't have happened if we were vibrating lower, like we wouldn't have been in alignment, so I think that's to note too. It's like it's not an easy journey to vibrate high, and it's constant work, y'all. Like this is not a one, like, oh, you just get here and you're good. Like I still be like an hour or two ago, I was like, what is happening? But it's in the ability to transmute that energy. It's in the ability to make decisions that serve our higher selves. To make decisions that are going to get us closer to the goal, or even if we don't know if it's going to get us closer to the goal, to make the decision so that either I know that I need to adjust fire and pivot and make a different decision to get closer to my goal, or it does, catapult me a little further. But it's in the awareness and the decisiveness.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think just, like understanding that, like, but like I said, that's essentially what the shadow work is, like it's the embodiment of transforming that unconscious energy that, shows up in the form of beliefs and thoughts and patterns and decisions that we make them more conscious, and to turn it into growth, like intentional growth. That's essentially what this work is. So I think for someone, like if someone was like, okay, how do I start? My suggestion would be to have awareness. I feel like that's gonna be my answer to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes people think, okay, I gotta do all these things right now. But no, sometimes it's sitting, because I think if we sit in the notice the things, take note, even if it's just for a few days, like out of the week, to take note of the things and the people and the events that really activate us. Take note of the things that really, like, either that you found yourself thinking about constantly throughout the day, or maybe prevented you from going to sleep that night. That person, that conversation that you had, that you felt like you had some things left unsaid, whatever the case may be. Write down take a voice note, whatever, of those things. And I think for this type of exercise, the better thing would be to write it down, because then you can see, okay, this is reoccurring. Like, I realize I literally wake up unhappy every day. Where is that coming from? What am I not excited about in my life? Or I always notice that I'm feeling drained after this conversation with this person, or I'm always feeling like I'm stewing on the conversation that we had after I talked to this person, or whatever the case may be. See what keeps showing up for you. And I think once you have that awareness on what is affecting your energy and your vibration, growing in the awareness will allow you to move different if you need to. Okay, maybe I need to talk a little less to that person, or maybe like we need to stay away from politics type of conversation, because I realize like every time it just, you know what I mean? Like realizing, okay, what do I need to either, and this is, I guess, going to lead us into the rinse, wash, and repeat, because what do I need to sustain to, you know, take away, or whatever the case may be, like adjust. So I think that would be my suggestion. What would you give? What would you tell a person that might be just like starting out on this whole energy transference and alchemy?
One thing that I did think about when you was talking, I thought about a lot of things, but I would say change your default, right? Like ask yourself, what is your default? This right here, like the way that we're operating, this is our new default, right? And it's like, no matter how much you try to like sink, you're always gonna rise to the top, because that's your default, that's your basis. And the way that I was able to adjust and change my default was journaling was an aspect of it. But I always say learning how to learn. That, for me, that's what changed my life. Because every aspect of my life, like growing up younger, I just didn't know why I couldn't grasp certain information. I just felt like, damn, am I dumb or something? Like I know I'm not, but it was just, there was no, not really a curriculum, but there was no really set way of teaching. There was only one set way of teaching, and it didn't really leave room for others that may have learned a different way.
Yeah.
And so I would say learn how you learn, right? Like this right here, this is one way that I learn it. I noticed that everything that I do, it has a pattern to it, right? This, like the way that I learn has a pattern to it. Like if I'm doing online classes, the instructor is talking like this on a Zoom call, and I have my notes out right here, and I'm taking notes and I'm listening and I'm engaging, and therefore I am learning about the material that I'm studying. And that is how I learn, right? So, and reading, of course, right? Really getting into like some self-development books. I can leave some recommendations in the description below. But yeah, so the 3 things that I would recommend you first do if you're trying to learn how to learn. First, you need to identify your intelligence type, right? Everybody has an intelligence type. You just don't know what yours is. So identify that. Identify your competence level. There are 5 stages of competence, right? I'm not going to go into all of them, but understand where your competence level is, right? That's the second key. And the third key is your psychic ability. Now, this doesn't mean that you have telepathy, you can move things with your mind, but psychic ability just basically means how your brain operates. So like somebody who's a clairvoyant or a auditorial type, maybe you learn through seeing it, right? Maybe you learn because you have just like a level of instinct to you, right? So maybe it's just like, I know this, but I don't trust that I know this. So that's where I would start. If anybody is looking to really like raise their level of consciousness, learn how to learn, because that's all this is. All this is just learning, not just learning material, but learning yourself, because you see yourself in everything that you're learning. And find something that's of interest to you. Like, I love things of an esoteric nature, right? I love occultism, right? I love learning about the hermetic principles and universal principles, and I love learning about the brain and how it operates. These are just some things that I like to learn about, right? So find something that interests you and figure out how to learn about that thing that interests you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's key, especially like finding what interests you, because we all have gifts to bring to this world, I believe.
Mm.
And finding where our passion or even our biggest like core wounds, like our biggest traumas, the things we struggled with our lives, like it has something to do with our purpose.
Mm.
So if we dig into what we like to do and into growth in general, I think, because yeah, that was a big I like that you brought that up, because that was really the game changer for me. Outside of having coaches and mentors, it was reading the books, it was watching the YouTube videos. Like I've been just, and I'm still in that phase. Like I don't really listen to, I used to love like John Grisham was my favorite author, and he writes like fiction and but now I'm just like everything, it has to be about self-development or spirituality or something. Like that's what feeds me, you know. And that's, I mean, it's in alignment with my purpose and passion. But that, listening to those types of books that helped me learn about boundaries, that helped me learn about relationships and attachment styles and our shadows and shadow work and spirituality and religion and all these things, I got something from all of it. Either I was like, oh, that really resonates, or I was like, you know, I have a different belief. Like, I don't, you know, like I have a different perspective or whatever the case. But there was a lot of aha moments, a lot of like enlightening moments to help me see me more, you know? So I think that's definitely big. And yeah, there's some definitely like some key books that I would recommend as well for like jump starting that journey to self.
Okay. For sure. For sure. That's
But
dope.
but yeah, like that, like I said, that really went into the rinse, wash, repeat um topic that you had brought up. I really like that. And I forgot what context you brought it up of.
So
Yeah.
rinse, wash, repeat. Essentially, it's your default. Rinse, wash, and repeat is essentially your default, and you add on top of that. So like you're a shadow work coach, right? So everything that you do is going to be pertaining to shadow work. And I got this idea from a friend because she felt like she didn't know enough, or she didn't have enough information to share with other people, and she didn't really want to give away that information as well. Am I talking about you right now?
I'm wondering. I was thinking, I was like, this is
Maybe you're afraid I'm talking about.
I'm weak. That's, I was really thinking like this is familiar, but you know.
There's somebody else I know that had the same thing too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know enough. And I feel like all of us go through that, like, even me. Sometimes I feel like dang, I don't know enough, so how can I possibly? But again, rinse, wash, and repeat is just literally recycling the information that you already have and remixing it into something that people probably have never heard before, never heard it put in that way. So whatever you're recycling through the information that you gathered over the years, right? You can find something new in that, right? Like with meditation, that was how I started off. Like I started off teaching meditation because that was a real big thing for me. So I've learned what I've learned about meditation, and there's so many aspects and facets to it. But I can still, I can still like build on top of that. I can still build on top of that, and I can remix it and flip it. Because the thing is, right? This is the thing that I always said about meditation. It's like a highway. Meditation is like you sitting on a in front of like a highway watching thousands of cars go back and forth, right? You're not going to try and capture every single car that you see because that would be dangerous and dumb. Your objective is to observe every single car that's passing and allow it to just go by, right? Without thinking about it anymore, without not even giving it another thought. It's the same thing with our thoughts, right? You have to allow your thoughts to just pass on by. Like if you have a thought, okay, that was a thought, boom. Move on to something else or recall your focus, right? Back to your breathing. That's just information that I've gathered over the years. And that's something that no matter how many times I talk about it, somebody new is going to hear it in a way that they've never heard it before. And for those that have heard it before, it's just a reminder letting them know like, oh yeah, okay, this information is already embedded in me. It's something that I am. It's not something that I've learned, right? And that for me is rinse, wash, repeat. But I like the concept that you have on it. So if you want, can you share
Well,
what
hold
rinse,
on,
wash,
before we
repeat
shift
you?
though, because that made me think though, like especially because it took me years to grasp meditation. Like I was like, I'm doing this wrong. Like I can't do shit right. Like I was really struggling with meditation.
Yeah.
Because I've lived my life being an overthinker and a people pleaser and all the things. So my mind was constantly going. Had insomnia, and it wasn't until I took plant medicine that I really learned the art of like what it felt like to have my like thoughts just stop. And but there's layers to it, right? Because even in meditation for you or anyone, when we meditate, because we go through different phases of our lives, like you said, it's a recycled of our past. It's recycled of the energy that we've all like accumulated in our life. However, even when you meditate, you can get something new out of it every time. It's like that's just how it is. And then not only that, but there's different ways you can do it. So it's like, even though you're having the same act, oh, I'm going to meditate every day, you're going to get something new is going to come up for you. There's something else that's going to come into your focus and grasp your attention, and you can do it differently, like each time, whether you meditate just sitting on the ground or whether you're meditating while you're washing the dishes or whether you're in bed, spending 20 minutes just laying there listening to audio, a frequency or something. Like there's so many ways to do it. But then also just like reading a book, the different phases is going to bring up different things. You could read the same book that you read 5 years ago, but it's going to hit different because you've shifted. Your focus has shifted. So there's going to be something else that you're going to catch that's going to catapult you again into more growth, more healing, more expansion. And I think that's like, there's so much beauty in that. There's so much beauty in that.
That is. It is. Meditation is truly a powerful tool that is underused, right? Or it's.
I think most people, like most people don't want to sit with themselves. They don't even like themselves, let alone like, no. That's how I was. I was doing all the things. I was adding to my calendar consistently because I didn't want to sit with myself. And then I finally realized I don't really like me like that. Like, I want to meditate. Like, I just was like, I was living my life just very unintentional. And it just,
Yeah. I will say this, right? The one thing that meditation has taught me, and I've noticed how it's played an effect on my life, for the good and for the bad, but I don't consider what I think is bad as bad, right? Allow me to explain. So when I first started meditation, right, I was like how you felt. Like, I didn't like my life. I didn't like the way it was going. I was just like, this ain't it. What I'm doing, this is not it. The way I'm living, this ain't it. So that was my first introduction to meditation. And I thought like, it was supposed to be so profound when you do it because, you sit in this position and your eyes closed and it's like, something's supposed to happen, right? Nothing's happening. So the more I did it,
I used to peek.
Like,
Yes, I would.
No. Okay.
I thought I was gonna see, but yeah.
Thought somebody's gonna come down and just boop.
Third eye open.
Right. It was not the case. It was not the case. And so what I've learned, what I went through, what I experienced was I heard myself, right? It's weird to say. And this is why I say I heard myself for the first time when I started to continuously meditate. We're bombarded with so much information on a daily basis that it has an effect on our thought process. And when you start to meditate, you're going to hear so much chatter going on in your brain. And it's only because we're scrolling all hours of the day. We're driving and we're noticing billboards that are pulling for our attention. We have people that we talk to. So your mind is just full of information. There was a study that I read one time, and it stated that the regular human being has over, and quote me on this, I might be wrong, I think it's like 10,000 thoughts a day. We have over 10,000, maybe more thoughts a day. So you think about it, right? Everything needs a release. We release, when we cry, when we use the bathroom or whatever, right? We just have these releases, right? But what happens when you have all of this information bottled up in your brain and you have no way of allowing it to escape? Now you're starting to question yourself because you don't really know what is truly your authentic thoughts because of all the effects and all the stuff that you've gathered over years, right? And so what meditation did for me, like I said before, it allowed me to really hear myself for the first time. And so I loved it because at the end of the day, or even the beginning of the day, I would listen to that voice. That was me. And so anytime I went throughout my day, I can identify like, oh no, that's not me. That's me, right? Oh, that advertising that I just saw, that's not me. This is me, right?
Yeah.
And so you get reintroduced to yourself. That's the beautiful thing about meditation. You get reintroduced to yourself, and then you get to a point where it's like, this is the bad part that I was talking about earlier. Nothing bothers you anymore. And it's scary because where something probably should bother you, it really doesn't bother you. It's just like, dang. It's like, it's crazy. Like
people shadows come into light, and it's like, oh, okay. You're just really activated. You're just operating out of trauma. Okay. Like I ain't got to take it personal because it's not about me. You know what I mean? Like it just, things just hit you different.
Yeah. You get a level, you got a better level of understanding of others because it's like, oh, okay, you're just reacting, you're not responding. Yeah. Like somebody could hit you, like you driving, and somebody just boop, just rear ends you. And normally somebody's reaction would be like, oh no, you hit me, oh my God, blah, blah. I'll just be like, dang, you okay? Good. Okay. Let me call the insurance company. Like
what's your policy number?
Right. What's your policy number?
Yeah.
Okay. Doing all right today? Beautiful day today, ain't it?
Right.
And they look at me like,
oh, this must mean I didn't need to get to my destination that I thought I needed to get to at that time, because like that's how my brain works. I'm like, okay, there's a purpose in this. Like this is preventing something, maybe some other like worse accident from happening, or something like that. It's like I believe everything happens for a reason. So yeah, I like that though.
That's powerful. That's the power of rinse, wash, and repeat too. Because the more you do it, the more at ease you are with life. And
that's so funny though, how we had different takes on it. Like, I was like, when you were saying yours, I was like, oh, this is completely different from what I came up with. But I love it. I love it. Yeah. What were you about to say?
Oh yeah, that is what rinse, wash, and repeat is. When you do it so many times that you just become it, right? It becomes you. It's like, there's a photo that I read quite often because it reminds me of the person that I'm becoming. And it's like, first it starts as a thought, then it becomes an intention, then it becomes an action, then it becomes a practice, then it becomes a habit, and then it simply becomes who you are. And so we're all in that process of becoming. And so when you rinse, wash, and repeat the information that you've already gathered, it's not something that you're regurgitating. It's something that you are. You are the books that you read. You are the meditations that you do. You are the shadow work coach. You're the coach that coaches yourself through others in a sense, right? Because you understand where everybody else is. And because you overcame the things that you have overcome, you can help other people overcome because you can look over and look and see, like, I see what it is that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier for you to see, which they can see it too, but they haven't become yet. It's a habit. It's a thought. It's an intention. Mm-hmm. It's a practice. You know, it's not who they are yet. So that's just what it is. We are who we are.
And I remember like it used to break my heart that I would truly be like, I used to stress over, like, how do I know what's my higher self? Like, versus, you know, like, less serving thoughts and things like that. Like, how do I know it's like a self-limiting belief versus, or how do I know what's right and what's wrong? I used to have so much anxiety over that. And now I realize, like, wow, it wasn't until I think you said that made me realize, like, wow, I really have mastered that in a sense to the point of I don't even question, like, is it my higher self? Because I know when it's a thought from my higher self, and my higher self is she could be very petty, like, but not in a like petty way that we think like in society, but she's like, girl, get your life together. Like, what are you doing? You know, like she talks like that.
Yeah.
But now I know, because if it's something that I'm like, there's maybe some anxiety around, some even fear attached to something, but it's like, okay, no, we're going to do this thing. Like, we're going to start this podcast. And I know, like, once I feel it in my body, like that initial anxiousness, that the thoughts that come up after, and I think about, what is that leading me to think? Like, you know what, we have talked about this for some years. Like, oh, I've been having this thing. Like, people have been constantly telling me on the phone, like, oh, I love your voice, and oh, you have this calming presence, da 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 da. Like, I will realize in how my body reacts to thoughts, and then my afterthoughts of the thoughts. That's how I know if it's my higher self versus like my ego trying to protect me from something, or, you know, even just a self-limiting belief that I have. And it's in that I actually created this framework, which is like I was talking before we hit record, that's like the very first module in my coaching program, because we got to get to the nitty-gritty of the core wounds that create the thoughts or beliefs that create the behavior, or that influence the behavior that can become a pattern, and it can even become generational. But even with that, it can mutate, like how things show up for us. So I think, just again, going back to awareness is so important of that, because then we can create more of that with that rinse, wash, repeat, like you said, and become it. And shift the energy so that we are vibrating at a certain level to get the things that we desire in life. And at the end of the day, we have the power. Like, we have the power to shift it, to shift our reality. It don't matter what you're going through, where you came from, who you the daughter of or son of, like, it doesn't matter. But with growth comes opportunity.
With growth comes opportunity. You know.
But that's just a shift from what I thought, because we only said, you said rinse, wash, and repeat. We didn't really go beyond that. So your perspective on it, your take, I took it a little different. And I'm always going to go into, like, of course, the shadow work, but which essentially what you said is shadow work too. We just have a different perspective on it. But when I thought of rinse, wash, repeat, I thought of in the sense of helping us to manage and regulate the energy, in the sense of, especially when it comes to like relationships, or well, not even just relationships or things that we like, anything really in life. I took it as rinse is more so, this is essentially how we can evaluate things in our life. Do I need to rinse it? Do I need to wash it? Or do I want to repeat it? So rinse means it's something that may not be exactly fully what we want, but there's aspects of it that are like, you know what, I still like this, I still admire this, I still want this. But then there may be some parts that we're just like, yeah, this is really not working for me. So that's where we need to rinse. We need to either, like in the sense of relationships, we'll say, I need to either dilute or minimize my connection with this person, because while there's some things I like about our connection, there's just some things that just maybe how this person is, or maybe, you know, whatever the case may be, something that's not in alignment. So essentially, we want to rinse it out. We want to water it down a little bit. And then you have the wash, because that's when we're like, we with the rinse, we realize we need to create like some type of boundary to be able to have the connection be what we desire for it to be, to still serve us.
Right.
And then the washing is like, that's where we realize, okay, maybe I need to just cut off this connection, or maybe I need to not do this thing. Maybe I need to stop smoking the cigarettes because it's not getting me the desired result. It's not really doing anything for me, you know? So we wash it, we literally clear it out. And then there's the repeat. Those are the connections and the people and things that fill us up, that light us up, that don't drain us, that bring more inspiration and love and high vibration, essentially. So those are the connections that we want to repeat, that we want to stay in touch with. And that's essentially where my brain went when it went to rinse, wash, and repeat.
Wow. You know, I like that. I really do. Yeah, me sitting back for a minute like, I didn't think about it like that, you know?
Yeah.
Dang. Do you need to wash it, rinse it, or repeat it?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Because I think it's something to be said, and this is, like I said, this is why I'm putting this, like, I have a form of this in my program, but I really like the layout that I created with it. So I'm shifting my program a little bit, inspired by you, because we should be analyzing all of our relationships with this, like with this type of scrutiny, even with ourselves, right? Like with our thoughts and beliefs and patterns, behaviors, we should be evaluating, do I need to rinse, wash, or repeat? Right? Do I need to like adjust this, create some boundaries? Do I need to completely wash this and remove this behavior? And then what do I need to keep repeating? Like, that's what we constantly should be. It should be about growth. It should be about progression, not stagnation and indecisiveness.
All right, y'all heard it. So look, listen, if y'all need to figure out whether or not you need to rinse, wash, or repeat anywhere in this life cycle, head over to the link in Keleisha's description. Head over to the link right now, because I'm telling you, this course is going to change your life. It's going to change the trajectory of your life. You're going to find yourself on a path to greatness and success, all because you learn to identify what needs to be rinsed, what needs to be washed, and what needs to be repeated. Head over to the link in the description right now.
Right now.
Right now. That's the ad. I'm gonna clip that out. That's the ad right there.
That's it. That's the post.
That's the post. Hey, I love it.
No, I mean, it's this, like, I really love us talking about these things, because I do think we both have different perspectives that are both very powerful, right? And I mean, we are very passionate about this work. And so I'm like, as I'm going through, like when I go through my coaching program, I just get excited all over again. And I learn something new all over again with each client. Like it's beautiful. And I really look forward to even hearing about your program and platform that you are creating right now. Because it's necessary. Like there's people are already watching, they're already listening, but there's our people that need that layer of personal attention, you know? And I just know, like, somebody asked me, like, how did I become what I am today? Like, how did I get to the point of like knowing this is what I want to do? And I was like, because my journey was so gosh darn rough I just wanted to be what I did not have, or what I had in so many people. Like
Mm.
I spent so much money, so
Yeah.
much money on different things that I was just trying to get answers. I was trying to get, I always say that I was looking for answers when I didn't even have the questions. Like I just knew I needed something, but what I had was not it. So I'm like looking for all the things, and I just know, like, it was like I want to be a safe space for people to help them to shift in their healing, to shift in their like mindset, because that's really the key to everything. It's really just our beliefs about it. And it's like, even as coaches, even as healers, as educated people, like we know the things, but we still go through the things, but the thing is, we get to a point where we can like self-coach. Now, we still need therapists, we still need our own coaches, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, we get less activated by life because we have a different mindset on it. And we know, even when we like may start to unravel in our minds, we're like, you know what? I know what to do to refocus. I know what to do to shift this. I know what to do to transmute the energy. So what do I need to tap into? Do I need to go outside and stand in the grass? Do I need to schedule an extra session with my therapist? Do I need to, go ask a friend to like, hey, let's just go on a jog together? Do I need to go like have some fun and let my inner child play? Like, what do I need to do to recalibrate right now? And I think that's the thing. It's not that we don't go through the things, but it's like we don't sit in stagnation as much as, because I don't believe when people say you know better, you do better. No, not so much. Like, embodiment is like the hardest thing. We can know the things. That don't necessarily mean we're going to do the things.
For sure. That is a fact. Just because you know better doesn't necessarily mean you'll do better. So applying what you know means that you'll do better. It's always about the application. No matter how much you read and study and all that stuff, if you don't apply it, it's no good.
Yeah.
It's no good. Man, look, well, what you had to say?
I was gonna ask you a question, but are we on time? Because that was pretty good. I don't know. You have the timer. I don't.
What was the question?
I was gonna ask you, how would you give advice on knowing the difference when you need to like rinse versus wash?
Knowing the difference between when you need to rinse and when you need to wash.
Yeah. Or what advice would you give, I guess?
When you need to dilute, or when you need to just draw the slate clean, wipe the slate clean.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is my thing, right? There are people that say that, how's that saying go? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? I believe that there's levels to this. I believe insanity is doing something and quitting before the result shows up, right? That's the insane part to me, because literally it's all about consistency, right? It's about consistency in identifying what works and what doesn't work. And so when it comes to rinsing, right, I feel like rinsing is the reset. So if you're doing something, right, and you're just doing it, the results you're tracking, you have to figure out what's working, right? What's working and what's not working. That's where the rinse comes in, right? Because when you're wiping something off, right, you're essentially rinsing so that way you can wipe more of that thing off. The same thing applies with whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're constantly doing something, you have to be checking the results that you're getting from the thing that you're doing and pinpointing what works and what doesn't work, right? So that would be my thing, right? When it comes to the rinse. When it comes to the wash, Sometimes you just got to draw the board clean and just start all over again. And I learned this from one of my chaplains, right? And it's like, there is no shame in starting over. In fact, it's probably one of the most powerful things you can do, because when you start over, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting with experience. And so I say that if you're doing something and it's sort of kind of working, I would say start it over and come at it from a different vantage point. Like, for me, example, I'm starting over my course, and I've done this course multiple times. And so I'm restarting it, but I'm not restarting it from a lack of knowledge, right? If anything, it's going to be even more powerful because of the knowledge that I've gathered, right? And it's going to be more refined.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
I like that. So it's not starting over, starting over is not like starting off from scratch, but it's restarting with, what'd you say, with knowledge?
Experience.
Or with experience. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Might have to borrow that.
It's yours.
I love it. I like that. But that's, I mean, as diverse as our perspectives were on it, it still connects,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's still about, because rinse, washing, and repeating to evaluate our relationship with self and others is still going to create a pattern, based off of the decision that we make, whether we rinse to create boundaries, take space, whatever, and then wash it to cut it off, and then repeat. Like, it's still going to create behaviors that will turn into patterns. So at the end of the day, it still connects. So look at that.
Hey, full 360. Rinse, wash, and repeat. Boy, look. Synchronicity is on point tonight, all right?
Right. What you were talking about numbers. You were saying the 1 and the 9.
Oh, okay. I'll end it with this thing. I'm going to be quick with this because we're over time. We're way over time. So the number 1 and the number 9, right? 1 is the beginning and 9 is the ending, right? Because after the 9, the numbers basically repeat themselves. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, so on and so forth, right? It's a little bit of numerology for you, but I say that because we only have, 4 months left into the year. September, October, November, December. And I would say these last 4 months are pivotal because these are like the productive type of years, where the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year was all about planting seeds, creating good soil, and just getting a foundation set. So that way the seeds that you plant have a way of growing up, right? And so now we're in like the pretty much the tail end of the year, right? And I feel like these years are the years that you start to see the growth happening, and you start to kind of reap the harvest of the growth that you've accumulated in the first few months, right? And so now that we're entering in this last, and I use these numbers as cycles, right? Not like to pinpoint a specific like month, year, date, or whatever. These are just cycles, right? The beginning and the end. So we're coming close to the end, which means that we're producing something, so that way we can take the seeds from what we produce and plant them in soil, so that way it grows even greater. And yeah, that's just it. That's what I feel like we're in right now, because everything that we're doing up until this point, coming into next year, is going to set us up for success. Like, all right, I was talking to a friend, right? And I was just basically explaining to him.
Is this the friend that's me, or is this a friend a different friend?
Yeah, this is a different friend. This is one of my soldiers at my unit. I was talking to him, and he was like, "Hey, bro, you got a lot going on right now." He was like, "Don't burn yourself out." I was like, "Nah, I'm good. I know what I'm doing." I let him know, like, everything that I'm doing is just putting me in a preparatory state for next year, so that way, whenever everything is just set up, I can just step right into it, right?
Yes.
So yeah, of course, you're gonna be burning candle at both ends. That's just what it is when you're going for success. But once you got everything set up, everything is just going to start rocking and rolling automatically. It's just going to roll smoothly. So that's what I say this whole end of this year is like. It's just getting us prepared for something even greater. And I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm. And it's also the fruit, like I think we are enjoying the fruits of our labor from earlier this year too, because being the end of the year, like, you know, like you said, the beginning of the year is about planting the seeds, and then like summertime, it's really about nurturing it and nurturing the soil. And then like, I think that like the last quarter that we're going into is really about like reaping what we sow, you know? And I feel like now, like this series, and like we said, mentioning about the retreat that we have, like this is all things coming to fruition of things that we've prayed for, that we've manifested, that we've, you know, like trying to get deeper into our purpose and helping others. And it's really like, it's now, you know?
It's here.
Like these are the old days, you know?
For sure, for sure. And the fact that this happened right here just goes to show that there's something greater coming. So I got faith in that.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yep.
But we thank y'all for joining us for another episode. We said this was going to be a good one.
Hey, this was one of them ones. Hey, this one for the books.
Well, I feel like we say that almost every time. We say that like every episode.
Every episode.
It's like, it's yeah, they're all good though. They're all good. They're all needed conversations.
Yes.
And it's legendary. So, but we appreciate you tuning in, whether this is the first one or you've been rocking with us. We appreciate it.
We appreciate y'all. Legendary conversations. Thank y'all for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing us to be on this journey with you. And thank you for being on this journey with us. And until next time, peace and progress.
Peace.